Entering the atmosphere in T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Omega Metroid podcast from OmegaMetroid.com. My name is Andy Spiteri, joined by my friend and yours, Doominal Crossing and Doom. I don't know if you know what day it is today, but it is the 4th anniversary of OmegaMetroid.com.
Wow. Oh, that's right. Oh my gosh,
right.
Time flies.
We launched it on the same day that the Switch came out.
I thought you were talking about the podcast for a moment. I'm like, that can't be right. We've been on way longer than that. But yeah, the website is already 4 years old. That's crazy.
The website is 4, and this is the 9th anniversary of the Switch. And actually, what really makes me feel old is Breath of the Wild is 9 years old. Like, that does not seem like that came out a decade ago in my life.
Oh man, you just gave me a heart palpitation saying that out loud. I do not like that. That's I'm about to make you feel really old. The PS3 and the Wii turned 20 in November of this year.
And you know what? Somehow that actually seems right to me. I don't know why. Because it seems like there was an entire console generation after, because the Wii debuted and it felt like the Wii lasted for a long time. And then there was the Wii U. So it does not seem like the Switch should be almost 10 years old, but it is. And here we are.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, the Switch did have a much longer than average console cycle as well, and so you have to factor that in too. But,
and the Wii U definitely had a shorter than average.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it does feel wild that it's the Switch 2 is so fresh, and yet the Switch 1 is almost a decade old. That is crazy.
Yeah, man, it's unreal. But yeah, here we are, 4 years after the launch of the website, and man, When we launched that website, Doom, I remember you and I worked a lot on that website, and we had walkthroughs up for Nestroid, for Metroid Fusion, for Super Metroid, and for Metroid Dread. And now we've got walkthroughs for everything except for Other M, which is on the docket this year. We've come a long way.
Right, and of course our written walkthrough from point A to point B. We still have a few more games in the Prime series to cover there, but like I said, I do plan to get to those eventually, and maybe one of those might be coming sooner than you think.
It could be, and you know what too? I mean, I think that the step the guidance walkthroughs, let's just call them, are much more necessary or needed for the 2D games rather than the Prime games. I think those ones are, they have the Shine Spark puzzles, they have no room names, they don't have a great hint system, so we'll get to them eventually. But yeah, it's funny how things have changed and evolved over that time. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild, absolutely wild. But yeah, what a momentous occasion to celebrate. Yeah, I'm so happy with that website, and it only continues to get better.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, we got a fun episode today. I'm really looking forward to this. Actually, I've been really looking forward to this for a long time. You guys might remember that over the course of the Omega Metroid podcast, we have put out a bunch of episodes called What We Want from Metroid Prime 4. And actually, I would love, if there's a super fan of the Omega Metroid podcast out there that wants to go back, I think there's 3 episodes called What We Want from Metroid Prime 4, part 1, 2, and 3, and get a list of what we said and see if any of them came true. That would be a great episode to do. But I always had a lot of fun with those because it was all the potential in the world is there, and the possibilities are endless. And we've been blessed since starting this podcast. We've had Metroid Prime 4 finally release, and we have had Metroid 5, aka Metroid Dread, release as well. So it's time to look towards what is next. And what is next is Metroid 6. And today we are going to be talking about what we want from Metroid 6. And this is probably going to be the first of maybe a couple of shows, depending on when this comes out, but we'll revisit this every couple of months or as needed, I think. But we put together a list of some stuff that we'd like to see from the game. So Looking forward to diving into that. Before we do, though, Doom, we did have a couple of things that I guess we should quickly touch on. In that, number one, there was a Nintendo Indie Direct today. I did not watch it. I am going to assume maybe you didn't as well.
I have not, no. The only thing I heard coming out of that Direct is that Blue Point finally got ported to Switch 1 and 2, which I thought that game was already on the Switch, but I guess not.
Is
Blueprints, yes, thank you, yeah.
I was looking for it actually like a month or so ago, and because I'd heard that it was really great, and I also thought it was on the Switch, but it was on everything but. So I actually like might check that out, see what all the fuss is about.
Yeah, sorry, I got a little Freudian slip with the studio that Sony shut down, unfortunately. But yes, Blueprints is the correct game title there. Speaking of games, though, there was a couple of Steam demos that came out recently for some games that I was interested. One called Dench Attack and another one called Replaced. I almost forgot the name for a second. I almost said Returnal, and I was like, that's definitely not the right name. Dench Attack is awesome. I love that, but I'm not going to go into too much detail of that because I want to talk about Replaced, because it's not so much a Metroidvania like I initially thought it was, but it's kind of Metroidvania adjacent. And Andy, I think you would love this game. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but I think you would love the aesthetic and the art style. It's very like Blade Runner. Very kind of like 80s cassette futurism. Like
that sounds like it's made for me.
It has such a killer atmosphere, and I absolutely love it. And you play as an android who has like the conscious of, like, I don't know if it's like another android or another human, but yeah, you play as an android that's like on the run and like trying to make his way back inside the facility that he escaped from to in order to swap his conscience again. And the demo is, it's about 10 to 15 minutes. So, you get like a brief snippet of gameplay. But I really enjoyed what I played so far. The combat wise, it's basically kind of like a 2D version of the Arkham games where, you have these very telltale counters. When it goes yellow, you counter, or you'll have a red, which means you can't counter it. And so you have to dodge instead. It feels pretty basic but graspable in the tutorial, kind of this demo of the game. I'm sure it's going to get a lot more complex later on in the game, but yeah, as like a first taste of this game that I've been had my eye on for like 3 years now. Yeah, I was pretty impressed, and I'm definitely eager to check out the final release.
Nice. Yeah, I took a quick look while you were chatting there, and it does look like a game that is coded for me. Since we're just talking about games really quickly, I finished Fire Emblem, The Blazing Blade. I'm on a big Fire Emblem kick right now. That game is awesome. Fire Emblem, like the tactics RPG like genre to me is almost like can't miss. Like it's just like it's so great. It's like playing chess. I really love it, and I'm going to champion again. I know I said it a couple weeks in a row, but like for anybody that's just kind of like Fire Emblem is lame, and like I get it. Like so many of the characters got into Smash Bros, but like you should give this series a shot because it's awesome. But I just finished that, and actually. So one of our team members, Game Worm, this guy has been like bugging me to play Outer Wilds for like 2 years, and I made him a deal. Actually, he did something for me at the website, and I was like, "Hey, if you can like make this guide, or I can't even remember what it was, but I was like, I will play Outer Wilds for you." And I finally fired up the first like hour or two. It's okay. It's okay. I'm not like gonna give any judgment on it so far, but it's got an interesting premise. It's so we'll see where it goes. That's the game that I'm playing right now. I want to like it for Game Worm. So I'm going in really trying to love this game.
Yeah, that's a game that's been on my radar for a while. I still do not know at all what that game is about, and I'm trying to keep it that way until I play it. But yeah, I think I've seen maybe 2 screenshots, 2 out of context screenshots, and other than that, I know nothing about this game. I don't know the genre, nothing. So yeah, eventually I'm going to tackle this game, and I'm going to go in about as blind as one can possibly go in. So
that's pretty much
whenever
what
I do get around to that. Yeah. Whenever I do, it's going to be fun.
Well, the other big news of the week here, Doom, was that maybe you can buy one copy and I'll buy the alternate copy, but we've got ourselves a brand new Pokemon generation coming. And Pokemon Waves and Winds was revealed. Pretty big deal for a lot of my friend circle. And you know, I love Pokemon as well. I thought that this looked pretty cool, actually. It not like blow me away or anything like that, but I was like, yeah, you know what? I took off Scarlet and Violet, and I haven't played Legends ZA yet, so I might just wait for this, actually, because it's coming out 2027. I feel like by that time my appetite for Pokemon is going to be kind of back up to where it was a few years ago, and I thought that the game looked pretty cool. Although I will say, I feel like, I swear to God, I've seen all of these starters already. I was looking at them and I was like, I swear this is like the Gen 6 or like the Gen 7 starters or something like that. So lots of go. And by the way, Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green on the not the virtual console, but just the eShop, which is probably the best Pokemon games ever made. If anyone is feeling Pokemon-y as we celebrate the 30th anniversary of this franchise, so some cool stuff coming down the pipe.
I'm not really a Pokemon guy, but I'm happy for the Pokemon fans, I guess. I people seem more positive on what's it called? Wind Waves? Is that what the titles are?
Pokemon Waves.
Waves, gotcha. Yeah. I know, like, people, a lot of the hardcore fans seem to be pretty down most of the time when a new game gets announced. Everyone, the discussions seem to be positive from what I've seen in my small pockets of the internet. So I hope this one delivers for Pokemon fans. But otherwise, I don't really have anything to say. It's not my corner of the game sphere.
That's what, and you still have never played a Pokemon game, is that right?
Right.
That's
well, no,
crazy.
I played Pokemon Red back in the day. I did play Pokemon Red.
I'm gonna go out. If you ever want to try Pokemon, like Fire Red, it's like legitimately one of the best RPGs you can play. It is really, really great. That was a game that kind of got me back into Pokemon, actually, and I played it like many, many years after it came out, but it was really great. Like it's kind of like the way that you remember Pokemon Red in your head, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So there it is. Okay, that was everything that went down in the world this week, but now we turn our attention over to Metroid 6. And I'm pretty staunch, actually, that I think that this announcement of Metroid 6 is coming like sooner rather than later. I think it's getting announced this year. I really do. That could be just like blind dumb optimism, but like I think so.
I think it's blind dumb optimism, but I hope your blind dumb optimism is correct.
I mean it's been I was gonna say it's been like 5 years since the last Metroid game. Obviously that's not true, but it's been 5 years since the last 2D Metroid game. So I think it could very well get announced this year, maybe released in 2027. Like I see that timeline as a possibility. Apparently there was a leak floating around of like a Super Metroid remake, but I guess this leaker is like about as credible as you probably think leakers are.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I don't follow. I think Nash Weedle is the name, which way too say that they have a spotty track record would be putting it nicely. Let's just say that.
I thought you didn't like Pokemon. Yeah, so I think we're gonna get it, and I think it's gonna come sooner than we think. So we better start talking about what we want for Metroid 6 and Doom. I have a list together here, and I put a caveat next to the submissions that Doom and I had to put forward here today, because I was like, okay, we can't just say we want a good story or we want a great soundtrack. We gotta be granular. We gotta be specific. We gotta really peel back the layers of the onion, as it were, and really discuss what we want. So it is time to do just that, Doom, and we will get kicked off here. I have probably about 10 things that I have written down. I don't know if you have any. If you want to start, I think some of ours obviously probably intersect a little bit. But if you don't want to start, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I just counted. I have 7 bullet points here, and I was telling you before we started recording, I was actually having trouble writing these ideas down because I was with you. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to just do some like vague thing I want. Like, I want to put specific wants and needs for Metroid 6 here, and I also kind of wanted to emphasize things that we haven't really talked about on the podcast before. Like, for example, the music. Like, we've both made our thoughts on the music clear. Obviously, I'm even more or less of a fan than you are, but I think we both had issues with it to some degree.
Totally.
And I've already gone into detail on the specifics of why I don't like that music throughout the podcast. So I kind of wanted to like not rehash that here because that's boring. We already have plenty of other episodes going over that. We want to talk about something new that, if we have talked about it before, we haven't really gone in depth before, or something that we haven't talked about. So that's kind of what I tried to focus with in my list. And I'm sure even then we're going to have some overlap.
I'm sure we probably will. I underestimated. I just counted. I have 13 bullet points here. So I'll tell you, why don't I get us kicked off? Because I got a little bit extra, and let me kind of guide it. Because I tried to separate mine into almost like category. And you know what? I got to be honest with you, actually. I am not, much like you were. We were talking before the show. I'm not worried about like how this game is going to control, like, at all. I think it's going to clearly use the Dread engine. That Dread engine was amazing. The 360 aiming, the sliding, the movement, the speed. I mean, like, that was just a outstanding feeling Metroid game. Like say what you will about some of the critiques that we all have, but like to actually play that game, I think you would be hard pressed to find anybody that's just like this is not one of the best controlling, best playing Metroid games ever, maybe the best.
I would go as far as to say it's the best controlling Metroidvania ever. Like it is smooth as butter, and it just feels completely natural.
Yeah.
Everything that you envision you want Samus to do, you can make her do effortlessly.
Yeah, and for that reason, much like you, I'm guessing, I didn't really focus a whole lot on like the actual like gameplay specific what I want for Metroid 6. There are some things, but like I think this is a case where like you definitely don't need to reinvent the wheel. You use what you did in Dread because it was really good. But
right.
So that being said, I actually think the thing that I am most wanting Metroid 6 to focus on is delivering a really, really great story. And I have a few things that I want to bring up on the story aspect. I felt the story for Metroid Dread was pretty strong, actually. I know some people might dispute that, but I think like the first thing I want for Metroid 6, and this is probably going to be the lowest hanging fruit that I give before I get more specific, but the first thing that I want Metroid 6 to do is I need them to continue the story of like Samus and her Metroid abilities. We cannot have that just written off at the end of Metroid Dread with the Quiet Robe's purple X curing Samus of her Metroid suit affliction. I think that needs to be a core aspect of the story and of the gameplay in Metroid 6. I think that gives you a really, really great opportunity in terms of gameplay to really freshen up a lot of the... I mean, basically everything, like a lot of your abilities, your attacks, your combos. You could play the Metroid abilities like a hyper mode, like you can only stay in Metroid suit for X amount of time. You could play it like you just gradually kind of acquire more Metroid abilities. I don't know, but I want the story to really focus on that Metroid suit, because like at this point we don't know, but we think that Samus now is housing the last bit of Metroid DNA in the universe, and so that probably should be a big deal. And I think that you can, one of the big critiques we've heard Dak talk about a lot was of Metroid Dread was that they didn't follow up on a lot of what Metroid Fusion had set into place with the Galactic Federation. And so like I think that you can, if you have the Metroid story, I think you could easily pick that right back up if you want to, and if you don't want to, that's fine too, but I think you could really like get that back up and going. So I have more to elaborate on this story here, but I think that's the first thing I want to lay down is like we gotta follow up on the Metroid suit, and that's got to be clear focus of Metroid 6.
Yeah, if I had the choice, that's definitely the direction I would go. It feels like the obvious direction to take the next 2D Metroid game. That being said, I personally at this point I don't have any expectations for what the story is going to be because like who knows with Nintendo what they're going to do. So I think that's the correct decision to make. I agree with you, but for the sake of my own sanity, I'm just going to go in not expecting anything. It's actually kind of related to one of my other bullet points, and I'm sure you probably had this in your list too. But going to the gameplay, I want the Metroid powers to play a role in the gameplay. And when I say play a role in the gameplay, I don't want it to be like the psychic abilities in Metroid Prime 4, where it's like, ooh, the psychic bombs, the psychic. No. I want brand new original abilities that take advantage of Samus's Metroid powers that we have never conceived of before in a Metroid game. The obvious one would obviously be, Samus be like putting her hand on an enemy and absorbing absorbing their energy, getting health back. But I'm sure there's like so many like creative Metroid stuff that you can do. Maybe like a tendril attack or something like that you could have Samus do. But like I really want to see them go crazy with the Metroid abilities, and I want them to play a substantial role in the gameplay.
I'm totally with you. Like I think that like you think of some of the more famous Metroid attacks, like I think you think of like the fireballs and like the beams and stuff like that the Queens and the Omegas have. Like instead of a plasma beam, let's have like the Metroid fire or whatever, right? Like let's get creative with it and do something a little bit different with it. I agree. Like I would hate for you to have like the Metroid grapple beam and it's just like the regular grapple beam,
Yeah. But now you can grapple on Metroid-shaped grapple points. I don't know.
Yeah. I actually think it would be really cool if you could just like legitimately transform into a Metroid, like like a jellyfish flying Metroid, like almost like you would do in Castlevania Symphony of the Night when you get to transform into a bat. I think that would be like really, really neat and like open up a lot of different puzzles. And maybe you have that instead of the space jump, right? Like maybe that's just how you float. But yeah, like shake up the moves and shake up the gameplay to tailor it around the Metroid suit. Because I really think that should be like a big focus of this game.
100%.
Well, let me kind of keep on going for what I want for story here. So very specifically, like I think. And this is where like I wouldn't expect this necessarily, but if I'm putting together my wish list, I do think I pick up that Galactic Federation story. Maybe not exactly the same, but I think that you can tell kind of a clever story here and be like you could introduce a couple of new villains and I'm gonna throw Avatar here, okay, as like a comparable. Your new main villain could be like General Quaritch or whatever the dude's name is that's hunting down all the Na'vi, like someone like that's like hunting down Samus, and it's just like we're gonna get this Metroid, this abomination. And I think that you could create like a cool new division and highlight maybe that villainous faction of the Galactic Federation by doing that. I would like to see like the structure of the Galactic Federation maybe a bit more too. I think this is a good opportunity for it. I'm not saying that like you need to see like scenes of the Galactic Federation like council debating on like the Jedi Council here debating on what to do with Samus, but like hey, it would be kind of cool to see like scenes of like leadership and expand the world and stuff like that. And you know what, maybe this definitely wouldn't happen, but like maybe there's a chance that like there's a new bounty hunter that gets introduced and it's kind of like a Raiden from Metal Gear Solid 2 kind of idea where it's just like, I mean, we talked about this. I was
gonna say we've both like pitched that idea before, and I'm like totally on board with that. I think that sounds like an awesome idea.
Like how cool would that be? Like and it kind of sets up like obviously there's a lot more Metroid stories to tell with Samus, a lot more, but like it does kind of set up. Let's just call this character Raiden. You have a Raiden character who is going. His or her mission is to hunt down Samus, and Samus is this evil Metroid, and you play the game, and Metal Gear Solid 2 kind of happens here, and this hunter is just like, you know what, Samus ain't that bad. And in fact, the Galactic Federation is not that great. And so like now you have a second protagonist, and if you ever wanted to do like an actual Metroid spin-off, you have someone with a little bit of name value and panache that you could do that with. So these are obviously, I would say, not incredibly realistic, not holding my breath for these, but if I'm writing Metroid 6, I'm definitely like working in some Galactic Federation hierarchy, lore, introducing new characters. Why not? It feels like you can go anywhere now with Metroid, and it feels like you would need some new like obstacles and faces and stuff like that. And you know what? I would even say, bring back Anthony. What's that guy doing? You know, where's he?
I don't know. I remember him.
I remember him very fondly. Madeline Bergman is still alive as well. If you really wanted to go crazy,
I think we're good there. I think we've all seen enough. I will say, so regarding the story, I'm kind of one on two minds of this. I would love to see the Galactic Federation come back, but if they're going to come back, you got to commit to it this time. And if you're not going to commit to it, then I don't want even a hint of like the conspiracy plot and then anything that's happened there. Either do it or don't like play around with it. Just so that's kind of my feelings on it. And so I will say, if they don't get the Galactic Federation involved, I want to see a new faction / alien antagonistic species that we have never seen or heard of before in the Metroid universe. That's kind of my two things. Either we do the Galactic Federation storyline that's been teased since Fusion, or we just do something completely different. That's kind of the routes that I want this take to game. That I want to take the game in story-wise, at least.
Yeah. And I think that you could do the Galactic Federation plot here basically brand new, if that makes sense. Like I don't think that like you would need to necessarily reference Fusion. You could maybe say like one of those things, like if you know, you know. But like I think that you could literally just start off this game with like kind of a fresh take on the Galactic Federation spin, where it's just like, okay, Samus is a Metroid now. She's dangerous. We've got to act. So it doesn't necessarily need to have that connective tissue to Metroid Fusion. But I agree too. Like if they're not going to do that, like I think this is the game. Like Metroid Fusion was that game. It introduced the X, it introduced Adam Malkovich, it introduced a lot of these pieces that are kind of core pieces of the series now, which I feel like Metroid 6, you kind of have a blank slate to do whatever you want. So like a new faction or a new, which is basically what I'm suggesting with like this Galactic Federation like council or army or whatever. Right. I'm totally down for that. Yeah, that sounds really cool to me.
Yeah, and it would be new in the sense that the Galactic Federation has never been a direct antagonist before.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying though that if they don't go that route, I want to see something completely different if they don't do that. So like I don't want to see Samus face the space pirates again. I don't want to see Samus face more evil I want to see a brand new faction or alien species that we have never seen before. That is the new threat of Metroid 6. But if they don't do the Galactic Federation, or maybe you could even do both. But that's just kind of my two ways about it.
You could do both, and you could slow burn the Galactic Federation story. But yeah, like put her somewhere where it's like put her against a Covenant, you know, like a race of like fanatics or something like that. Like, you know, there's so much that you can do. I just think, yeah, like let's really get creative and let's think of something new. I don't think anybody thought or saw the X coming after Super Metroids. Like I feel like we're kind of at that point now, like where Galactic Federation does make sense, but yeah, if you don't, like I don't want to go back to space pirates. You know what? It wouldn't be the worst thing, I guess, if you wanted to expand on like the Chozo stuff. Like there's probably still a little bit there, but my appetite is for something new as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything else for the story? Because I have one more thing that I want to mention about the story before we move on.
That's all the story stuff I have. So I'm gonna hand the wheel over to you. Okay.
So what I want from Metroid 6 in terms of story is actually more so like how they structure the story itself. In Metroid Dread, you kind of have like these three big set pieces. You have your opening, that middle portion with Quiet Robe, and then basically like the end of the game. And those are like, you get a lot of exposition on each of those segments. And I want Metroid 6 to more organically weave in smaller story moments throughout the game to kind of keep players engaged. I'm not suggesting that we go Metroid Fusion here or even Metroid Other M, but like I do think that you should have the story like you know what, like you play for an hour or so your first time, and then you kind of have like a 5-minute cutscene or something like that, and that moves the plot along. Like I think that one of the worst things that we've seen from Metroid Prime 4 and even Metroid Dread to an extent is that like the villains in those games are just like very passive. Like you don't see what they're doing, you don't see really what any other characters are doing. Not that there are a lot of other characters, but like you just kind of, you see him in the big moments and then that's it, where I think it just flows a little bit better to me and tells like a better story if you're kind of like continually checking up on these characters, and there's a balance there. Like you don't want to have it where it's interrupting the gameplay and the pacing and stuff like that. But I thought that the 3 scenes in Dread were a little bit long and a little bit exposition heavy, so I think that you could do a better job of like breaking that up throughout the game.
Right. I will say I think the intro of Dread is fine for what it is. It's when you pair it with that middle and the ending section that it does feel a little bit imbalanced.
I think
that's
the
actually
intro is
something
fine too. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually something I completely forgot about, but I totally agree with you on that front. I would like to see the delivery of the narrative paced a little bit more equally throughout the game. Doesn't mean every like 10 minutes you need a new story drop, but more often than just like the beginning of the first, second, and third, and the finale of the third act.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's what I'm looking for. Just a little bit more balance in terms of like how the story is distributed throughout the game. Doom, what do you got?
All right, so I'm gonna go to another gameplay idea that I wanted here. And Andy, do you remember the footage of the very first the very first footage of Metroid Fusion? It wasn't even called Metroid Fusion, it was called Metroid 4 when this first footage was released. And it looks disgusting. It looks absolutely rough. I'm so glad that's not what the final game looked like. But one of the big things on that was like you see Samus like running up the wall and on the ceiling, and it's probably for the best that didn't get included in Fusion. It was probably not fun to do in that context, but like that's always stuck with me as like this really cool idea that I would love to see get revisited in a 2D Metroid again. And to an extent you kind of saw it in Metroid Other M, that brief section before Sector 0 where like the gravity changes and Samus is like stuck on the ceiling. Yeah. And I thought that was a pretty neat sequence. I would kind of like to see, I don't think it'll happen, but I think that would be really cool to see like Metroid 6. Maybe you combine that with like the spider magnet and the speed booster, and now Samus can like do like all sorts of new cool tech with like the speed booster to like manipulate the environment in ways that we've never been able to see before. That's always been a gameplay idea that like I've always wanted to see revisit.
Yeah, I would need to see like a proof of concept, but I mean, to your point, like it's incredible how like just the slide and allowing you to jump with a shine spark really changed the dynamic of the speed boost in Metroid Dread. So I'm like pretty much totally open to any kind of augmentations that they want to do with the speed booster, and I think the more that you can like pair it with other items, that is really cool to me. Like I really like, I didn't write this down, but like I'd like, obviously one of my wants for any 2D Metroid game is like really crazy shine spark puzzles, and Metroid Dread I think really delivered in that area. So that would be like something that I would be looking to evolve even further into Metroid 6. So I like, so you're thinking that like you combine it somehow with like the spider magnet or something, or?
Yeah, that's just one idea I had. Like maybe it has nothing to do with the spider magnet or the speed booster, but like I just remember like the footage of like Samus running up the wall and then on the ceiling, and there's never really any context as to why she's doing that. It doesn't really There's nothing in the environment that like shows, oh yeah, that's why she's able to do that. But that's like always something that stuck out to me. Like that's a really cool idea that we really haven't seen revisited since then, other than that little section in Other M for like 2 minutes. I think there's like, if you do it right, you could do it wrong and make it absolutely painful and not fun. But I think there's a lot of potential to make that really fun and just do some really killer mind-bending kind of shine spark puzzles, almost on the level that you got with like Prince of Persia and like some of the time abilities that you had there that you were able to use to just manipulate the environment in ways that you couldn't conceive of before.
Well, you know what? I feel like I'm down for that. That'd be pretty cool. And actually, to your point, like I do think that section right before Nightmare in Other M is like a really fun platforming section, actually. So I'm not like against that at all. All right, let me go over to the next thing that I want. This is not going to be a surprise to anyone that has listened to this podcast for any amount of time. However, I'm going to say it. What I want from Metroid 6 is a complete overhaul in the way that expansions are done. I love the idea of like going out of your way, completing puzzles, beating bosses to find expansions, but we gotta replace the missiles and we gotta make it something else. And so I would personally be down, and I couldn't get as specific as I wanted because like it depends on what the game does in the setting, but like I would be down for like optional beams that you can have. Like Metroid has never really been great with like giving you optional stuff to do, really since the days of Super Metroid. So I think that would be great. Maybe like an X-ray visor, again optional to help with the expansions. Like, and maybe it's not like an actual X-ray visor, but it's just like it's like a scan pulse that you can get, and that is something that just helps you kind of sweep the board and get all of your expansions that are hidden. Like I think instead of like energy tanks and I mean like obviously you have to have missiles and energy tanks in some capacity, but like I think that you want to make it more like interesting like that. Like put a voice log, like a lower log or something like that, and unlock that, and that gives you detail into maybe a specific area of the map that you're in, or a specific enemy, or something like that, right? Like I think that you want to make it worthwhile, because like there is a point in a Metroid game where you're just like, okay, I've got 200 missiles. Do I need 250 to beat this game? No, not really. And maybe you can just like change this narrative by having like a really, really cool 100% unlock for getting all items. I kind of think that it would just be artwork, like as has been the tradition for MercurySteam games. But so I think that you just gotta redo it, like with logs, with weapons, with maybe it's like an extra Metroid tank that allows your Metroid gauge to fill up more so you can stay in Metroid form. I don't know, but like I think like expansions, they gotta mean more, especially late game, and especially power bomb expansions. Like power bomb expansions, I feel like are totally useless because like you're getting the power bomb so late in the game that like these expansions are like you could totally live with just like getting the base power bomb and that's it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on the powerbomb expansions before. Missiles, I still agree with you. Obviously, it's not as impactful, but like definitely, I feel like energy tanks are still pretty impactful regardless of how many you collect. So I'm fine with like keeping those. I also think the energy parts kind of helps balance that out a little bit more. But yeah, I think with missiles, I think weirdly enough, I think Prime 4 is actually kind of one of the better examples, and obviously that's far from perfect, but like it introduced like the optional beam upgrades that you could get in the shrines, the charged and the super variants of each of those beam shots that you could do. And so maybe you could do something kind of like that in Metroid Dread, not like a brand new item, but some sort of modifier, some sort of buff to the item that you currently have.
You know what? You just took the word right out of my mouth. I'm going to say something. People are probably going to shut this podcast off en masse, but take a page from Metroid Prime Federation Force's book. In each level, there is a modifier, at least a couple that you can find, and like they modify your stats. And so like I think, and it's basically like the charm system from Silksong, or like, you know, basically most Metroidvanias have some form of this. What's wrong with that? Like, you know, like I know you could find an interesting way to do it. Maybe this new Metroid suit can have like 3 spots where you can put in modifiers, so like your rate of fire is faster, or your, I don't know, you could survive longer in cold, presumably, if you're a Metroid, or whatever, right? Like something like that.
So I definitely don't want a perk system, so I'm definitely not in favor of that. I am on board with like the Federation Force idea, though, the modifier. I would want some sort of permanent enhancement. I wouldn't want like oh, you have 3 options and like a handful of stuff that you have to strategically play. It's like, no, just give me the thing, and I don't want to think about it. Just give me the enhancement and leave it be.
At all. It enhances replayability. You can play different builds, different ways.
I've never been a fan of it in single player games. I think it's fantastic for multiplayer, but for single player, it just doesn't really appeal to me personally.
That's fair, and obviously that's just like one suggestion, but
right.
like it's something of like value, you know. And I would agree, energy tanks are always valuable, but like again, like is your 240th missile or the 7th power bomb expansion valuable? I don't know. Like other than completing 100% of the game, like probably not.
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay, Doom.
All right, what do I have next? Okay, so this one, this is more of just like a thing that I want to come back, and I didn't want to put too many of these on the list because it's like, oh, I want the slide to come back, I want the flash shift to come back. Yeah, no, duh, everyone wants that, obviously. But there is one thing that I really did enjoy about Metroid Dread that I hope, if not only comes back, but I hope is doubled down on, and that is the amount of player expression involved, specifically when it comes to like sequence breaks and skips and just kind of the whole philosophy around Metroid Dread. You know, it's one of the most, you know, it's one of the most freeing Metroid games since Metroid Zero Mission, really, in the amount of alternative ways that you can experience that game. Mm-hmm. All the hidden sequence breaks and like, you know, secret quick kills, whether it's Kraid or Z57, and there's so much cool secrets and discoveries in that game. So many that like most people probably wouldn't even discover if not for people like discovering them and then like sharing them on the internet. I want more of that in Metroid 6, because that was like one of my favorite parts after beating Metroid Dread and seeing people have, you know, these, you know, I don't want to say completely different playthroughs, but like, you know, very unique experiences in these certain areas, and just kind of learning how to replicate that, and then deciding each time I play Dread, hey, do I want to play it the intended way, or do I want to do one of these other ways that player discovered? And also the fact that like most of that stuff wasn't patched out, or at least for the unintended stuff, most of that wasn't even patched out by MercurySteam. Like a lot of the the pseudo wave beam glitches, like most of those, you know, were, you know, with all the patches the game got, you know, those were, you can still do those in the latest patch. So I hope that philosophy continues in Metroid Dread, because I feel like that's been a huge part of what has made that game so replayable for myself and a lot of others.
I pretty much had the same thing on my list too, actually, where specifically I wanted them to actually go farther with like the idea that like you can do these sequence breaks. Like I think like that Kraid quick kill in Metroid Dread is like one of the coolest things you can do in the game, and it's clearly intentional, right? But like and you can get the early grapple beam too, and that's clearly intentional. So like, yeah, I think that really kind of, it was cool to see. Like Nintendo is not necessarily known for doing that very often, right? So I think that gave the game extra legs, and I think that they should like continue with that. Like I think that there should probably be a multitude of areas where you can do things like out of order, or like quote unquote sequence break, however strongly or loosely you want to use that term. And I think you should be rewarded for it. Like you should be, if you're gonna do it, you should be able to do another quick kill on a difficult boss like you can with Kraid, or you should be able to access a strong optional beam that you otherwise maybe you don't even get it in the game, or maybe, you know what I mean, like something like that. But like I think that they should do that, and I think that they should reward the players that go out of their way to do those sequence breaks.
Hmm. Absolutely. I think that would make me so happy. If that returns in Metroid 6, that alone, I know for sure that it's going to be a stellar entry. Not that I already don't think it's going to be a stellar entry. Like MercurySteam has more than proved themselves at this point, but that would be like the defining moment where it's like, okay, we're good.
Yeah. I wasn't sure when I was going to bring this one up, but you just said that everything is always great with MercurySteam, so I'm going to bring it up now, what I want from Metroid 6. And that is, I think that, so part of this is realistic, part of this obviously is never going to happen, but I think that MercurySteam, what I want from Metroid 6 is for them to credit people properly. That needs to happen. And my want would be like, I would love to, like, and I don't know how this would ever happen, but like, I would love for like Nintendo to do like an audit on that studio to see, like, okay, these are the hours that our people are working. These are, you know what I mean? Just like to make sure that people aren't being grinded into dust to make Metroid 6. As much as I want that game announced this year, releasing next year, like I don't need it that bad. There's no possible way that would happen. At least not the portion where it is like the, you know, talking about like, this is what we've done to improve morale or something like that. I think like asking for the credits is kind of the bare minimum. I think it would be really great if like MercurySteam, even perhaps at Nintendo's behest, was just like, these are the changes that we've made to our culture. This is the changes that we've made to our work environment. And I, to be fair, they could say that, and like, I don't know how much like credibility you would give that, but I think it would be worth something. Anyways, I would like to see that happen. I'm obviously not holding my breath for that. I think that the credits absolutely is something that we can expect and should expect, and is kind of the baseline for MercurySteam.
Yeah, if I will say, if something does change, I don't think that's going to be at Nintendo's behest. Unfortunately, I don't think they're going to have anything to do with it,
unless they buy the studio.
I remember last time we were talking about this, I can't remember who, but there was some Spanish regulatory institution that was like looking into like the allegations against MercurySteam. So if anything does happen, I would imagine it would probably be a result of that investigation. So I obviously, this doesn't really have to do with Metroid 6, you know, the gameplay, but yeah, obviously I think that obviously is something we all want to see. You know, we want, you know, people that need to be held accountable. We want to see that, and we want to see, you know, people be treated fairly, you know, within an ethical work culture. You know, yeah. I love playing these games, and I want to know that the people that created these, you know, wonderful pieces of art that we love are getting the respect and the treatment that they deserve.
Dude, and you know what? When a team is like loving the game that they're making, it is so apparent, and it bleeds through. Like Silksong. Yes. And this is not going to be my last Silksong reference, but like, these guys making Silksong clearly loved it. Like, they clearly had a blast doing it. They were just like, this is awesome. Like, what more can we add? And like, you can feel that. And like, I'm not saying that you play Metroid Dread and you don't feel like the love in that game, but I'm just saying, like, that there's like an actual impact on your video game when your staff are happy. And this is true of any workplace. Like, when your staff are happy, they work better. And when they're treated fairly, they work better. And frankly, it's been proven that when you have more days off, you actually are more productive when you are at work. So I didn't really know how to word this one. I guess, to be honest, like my want, like what I want for Metroid 6 / MercurySteam, I would love for Nintendo just to buy them and maybe clean up the top leadership in MercurySteam.
I will say, and this probably is completely unrelated to any changes that are going to happen in MercurySteam, but one thing that did catch my eye after my second playthrough of Metroid Prime 4, I was looking at the credits again, and I noticed that one of the people that was credited as a contractor brought onto the game was Joey Kuras, who was actually someone who was uncredited on the original Metroid Prime, and he was responsible for a lot of like the iconic sound design that you hear throughout the game. The charge beam, for example, that was something that he was directly responsible for, and it's since been licensed out, and you can see it in a bunch of other properties. But Metroid Prime is the originator of that, and that was his doing. And he was brought back in as a contractor, and he was actually credited. As a contract sound designer for Metroid Prime 4. So again, I'm sure that's just a coincidence. I don't think that's going to have. I don't think that's indicative of any sort of like mandate that Nintendo is going to enact on MercurySteam. But that's something that stuck out to me. It's like, oh, that's a neat little piece of justice there. Like this individual that was responsible for like some pretty iconic sound design is like not directly being credited for that, but like is retroactively being credited in a sequel, a couple of decades later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really cool. So like that, I hope that, because we saw that with a couple of games, Metroid games specifically with Nintendo.
Yes.
So I hope that they kind of, I want them to fix that up. So that doesn't necessarily have to do with Metroid 6, although the credits do. But it would be nice to, have some assurances, I guess, about like what's actually going on over in that studio. So. All right, Doom, it is your turn. What else do you got for us?
All right, let's get back to the list here. You know what? Here's something that I'm sure is on your list because we've talked a little bit about on the podcast before. In fact, I think we even talked about it recently in our Discord, which funnily enough, our Discord, we never really intended it, but the Discord was kind of talking about Metroid 6 as well, having zero idea that that's what we were going to talk about this week. So kind of funny how that worked out. But yeah. I want to see some sort of scanning / lore feature like AM2R had, because I think there's so much potential to flesh out these environments. And you mentioned something as well, I think in the Discord that I agree with as well, where we don't need to know every single detail of the environments. I still love not having everything answered. I still love being able to ask questions, but just some sort of device that allows us to add a little bit more context to these areas that can tell the history of these environments that we're visiting, some of the technology that's there. I think that alone would just be such a huge world building boost to a game that already it just thrives on wonderful world building.
Yeah, which is funny because I brought that up in the chat because I had written it down to bring up today. But that really does seem like kind of a no brainer. Now we were talking in the chat and like someone was saying like, oh, I wanted to know like every bit of like lore behind like every statue in Ferenia or what the general facilities in Berenia were used for. Like I agree with you. I don't need to go maybe necessarily that in depth, but I think a logbook is just like a total like this should have happened. This should have happened in Metroid Dread. It probably should have happened like as far back as Zero Mission to be frank. Yeah, like just like give us some context about some of the different areas in the game. If there's like really important, when you come across a room in Metroid and it's one of those really impressive like looking rooms, you're just like, oh, like I'd love to know a little bit more about this area. Like the area 4 in Samus Returns with all the crystals in the background comes to mind, right? Like like have an individual log for an important looking room like that. I think that would be really great. I think if you're going to introduce like a couple of new characters in this game, like that makes sense to have like a character bio as well. And actually, I took it even a step further, and I was like, there's no reason that like there's no what do you call it, like a bestiary in Metroid, like a logbook of all of the enemies that you fight. And Castlevania does this really, really well, and they've been doing that really well since 97. So like I think that this is like a no-brainer. And so like, and that could also be a really cool way to kind of like maybe instead of a one missile up in the corner here, you have to do a crazy shine spark puzzle, and that gets you access to a room, and there's an enemy, and you get to kill the enemy finally. Or maybe the point of the game is like you absorb the enemy and you get powers that augment yourselves that way, like kind of like the Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow and Aria of Sorrow. But like maybe it's that instead. And like I think if you kill an enemy once, it's in your book and you have some stats to back it up. Like take that from Castlevania. It's there. It works. It looks great. It works great. And you know what? Now that I say it, like I think like the Soul Castlevania games in particular, if you're gonna run with the Metroid gimmick, that's not a bad thing to have. And like maybe the different enemies can give you different power ups, kind of like those games.
Yeah, I've never thought about it, the bestiary idea until now, but now that you mention it, yeah, a bunch of Metroidvanias actually have something very similar to this. Like you mentioned the Castlevania games, the Hollow Knight games also have something similar.
Yeah, they do.
Shadow Labyrinth, which I just started again after putting it down over the summer, that also has something similar with the enemies too. So yeah, I think I would love to see something like that in a 2D Metroid game now that you bring that up. Absolutely.
And like, there's really not like a reason not to do it. It can't be that hard.
Yeah.
You know? And I mean it's kind of like more stuff to collect, more stuff to know. So like I think that's just like a no-brainer. And like there's like it feels like, and again, like I don't want answers for every single thing, but it does feel like there was something left on the table in terms of like really getting the player immersed into the world of like ZDR, and even like SR388 to an extent in Samus Returns. Like I think that you could really like go and put in like those Chozo lore logs, just like AM2R has. Like I thought that was really effective.
Yep, absolutely. I will say I would, if possible, and maybe it's not, I would like there to be a little bit more interactivity. In AM2R, they just kind of pop up when you go in the area. I do like in Metroid Prime how you have to physically pull out the scan visor and look at something. If possible, I would like to have a little bit, doesn't have to be a major gameplay mechanic, but some sort of like button press or something that where you have to tangibly and tactilely use the controller to gain access to the lore entry.
I think just like use a scan pulse. Like if you're in a room and there's
that works too.
Yeah, if there's something, you're just like, haha, scan pulse, and boom, you've got lore.
I'm down. I like that.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna keep the AM2R train going here, actually, and I'm gonna talk about music. Specifically, anyone that's played AM2R, I think every single person would remember when they got to the Hydro Station and they heard that awesome remix of the Green Brinstar theme. I think Metroid Dread was desperately missing a track like that. Like, specifically, a remix of a track that you know, so, like, it's easier to be like, oh, yeah, that track. Because I would say, again, like, I think we all remember playing Metroid Prime 2 and hearing the Red Brinstar remix in Torvus Bog. Or at least I do. I was just like, oh man, this is so great. And that immediately to me, it's almost like it makes the rest of the soundtrack easier to get into. I don't know what that phenomenon is called, but like for me, it works. And so I think like clearly we want an upgrade on the soundtrack of Metroid Dread, which I will still contest. I think is a perfectly fine soundtrack, but we're not going for perfectly fine. We're going for something a little bit classier here. And so like, I think like bring back, specifically get a remake or two in the game in an area where you can hear it and make it a remake that we just haven't beat into the ground over and over. Like if I hear the Norfair theme again, I might throw up. Like it's great, but like my God, we got to give it a break. How about Meridia? That theme has never come back.
That'd be nice.
What about the Ridley theme for Metroid? That's never come back.
Oh, the original. Oh yeah, that'd be neat.
Even the Norfair theme from Nestroid has never come back.
If they brought Ridley back in Metroid 6, that would be such a cool homage to do the original NES Ridley theme. That would be like leading up to his fight. That would be so dope.
That would be, I mean, that would be awesome, right? Like, yeah, and there's like a lot more tracks that I can think. Like, I think Sector 5 from Metroid Fusion. If the game has to have an ice area, that would be a really great one. And you know what? Throw in some Metroid Prime tracks in there too. Like there doesn't have to be this hard division, I don't think, between the two areas. So like, Yeah, I think like a remix or two is just, it's gonna go a long way with this soundtrack.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Obviously, my problems with Dread soundtrack doesn't really have to do with like the ratio of original tracks to throwbacks, but that being said, I do think Dread could have used a couple more throwbacks of tracks that, like you said, have not been beaten into the ground. And again, even, Red Brinstar during the Quiet Robe section, like it's a great piece of music on its own, but when paired with like all of the other Red Brinstar tributes that we've had, it's just like, okay, we get it. It's Red Brinstar. It's a famous piece of Metroid music. I kind of, and this will never happen, but I kind of feel the same way about like the theme of Samus, the classic da na 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 na. I kind of feel the same way about that as well, not to the same degree, but like that's I feel like that's like something that we're going to see in pretty much every game moving forward. So that's whatever.
To me, that almost seems like the Bond theme at the beginning of like the Bond movie. Like dude.
Yeah.
So I can live with that. I understand what you're saying though.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I always talked about how like I think it's absolutely criminal that Metroid Dread, once you got the power bombs and you escaped escaped that ME facility, that they didn't play Theme of Samus Aran Galactic Warrior. That would have been like the perfect piece of music to follow up on that moment of like Samus fully controlling her Metroid abilities and rising to the, oh my god, that such a missed opportunity, but I digress. But yeah, I'm 100% in agreement with you. The Hydro Station needle drop is a fantastic example in AM2R. For me, another huge one as well was whatchamacallit. I can't remember if it was Area 3 or 4, but it starts playing a bass melody, and you think it's going to be an original track, and then all of a sudden it's playing the Light Ether Temple theme from Metroid Prime 2, and that just completely took me back because I was not expecting a Metroid Prime 2 throwback in AM2R, and so that one really like caught me off guard in a positive way. And even Samus Returns even had a couple of throwbacks to Metroid Prime. The mission final results is taken directly from the Metroid Prime games as well. The menu theme, it's an arrangement of the gunship theme from Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. So yeah, we do have some precedents of a 2D MercurySteam tile dabbling in some Metroid Prime musical material. So I hope they decide to revisit that in Metroid 6. Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. Definitely. Like I think like the soundtrack should not be something that's just like, it's just fine. Like I think like the standard of Metroid soundtracks has always been like, or typically has been like, this is one of the high points of the game. Like I think of Super Metroid, I think of Metroid Prime, I think of I guess like Metroid Fusion and Zero Mission probably don't have that same level, but like Metroid Prime 2 and 3 I think definitely do. So like let's get that up there.
I'm surprised. I thought you didn't like the Prime 2 soundtrack.
Oh, I do like the Prime 2 soundtrack. I mean, I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but I mean, like you're talking about a soundtrack that has like Sanctuary Fortress, it has the Sanctuary Fortress Depths, it has Dark Samus, it has Torvus Bog Depths. Like it's a great soundtrack. Like the temple theme is great too. Like it's not bad by any means. I think it's quite strong.
I will say, obviously, I like Metroid Prime 4 soundtrack a lot more than you and Dak did. My biggest hope for Metroid 6 is that all three of us can come out and go, yeah, that was a pretty great soundtrack. Even if it's not our favorites, we can all agree that's like, yeah, that was a pretty nice soundtrack.
Oh yeah, if the game soundtrack sounded anything like Metroid Prime 2, I would be like howling with joy. Like yeah. So I'm with you. Doom, I've got like 3 that kind of bleed into each other here. So I can either do those 3 or I can do 1 and flip it to you. What do you want to do?
You know what? I feel like I've been talking for a bit here. Why don't you just go hog wild with all 3 of those?
Okay. So these kind of bleed into each other, and this one kind of bleeds into the story a little bit, but this is my want for Metroid Prime 6, and specifically the setting.
You mean Metroid 6?
Oh yeah, we haven't got Metroid Prime 5 yet. Jeez, I wonder how many times that's gonna happen over the course of like the next year or two. Oh my god, yes, Metroid 6. This is what I want for the setting of Metroid 6. I would like. So I think we've definitely kind of been in like the alien planets. We've seen that. I have got my fill of that setting from Metroid Prime 4. And we've kind of been in the space station setting as well. So I've got my fill from that from Fusion and Other M. I would like the setting of Metroid 6 to take place in a Galactic Federation city, a metropolis. Specifically, I kind of had in mind, like, when I was picturing this, I was picturing something like Midgar from Final Fantasy VII. And like, clearly, you can still have, like, the different parts of Midgar. Or actually, you know what it would probably be closer to is something like the Prince of Persia Lost Crown map, where, like, it's parts of it are definitely a city, but then you have, like, the sewers, then you have, like, the other parts, I guess, that you could make more, quote-unquote, video gamey. But, like, I think that it should take place in just like a different setting. Like I thought that Ferenia in Metroid Dread was like a really cool concept, where it was kind of like this broken down Chozo city, and we've kind of seen that with Chozo Ruins and kind of touched on that with Sanctuary Fortress, but like I don't think we've ever really went all in with this gimmick, and I think that we should. It'd be different. You could be in still 2D, but you could be in like a city, and like you could have your, you know, you could have your, like, I don't know, water area still, and it's like maybe this is where like the city's, like the dam is, and the dam has burst, or like you could have like an industrial area, you could have like a factory, you could have like, you know, kind of go down the list and really get creative. You could have like another Sanctuary Fortress type of area. Like I think that you can play around with like the different types of places that you can find. You could do like a cool like cyberpunk area. Like why not if you're going to be in a city, right? I think that it's like I want something new, and I want something that, or you know what, another great comparable is Silksong. Like you look at that city, and like you've got the chapel, and then you've got like the mountain, and then you've got, you know, like that's kind of what I'm talking about, is like that type of layout for a big city. I mean, exact details I don't know, but like I think that I would have it take place in kind of a new setting that's not something that we've been to before. And I'll say something else. I would not have this be like an empty city either. I think there should be people in there, not crawling with people, but like, again, people are going to be annoyed at this, but like Silksong had a lot of NPCs, and so does Hollow Knight, and so do, to a lesser extent, but like so does Prince of Persia, so do a lot of really great Metroidvanias that we've played. And I think that people are protective, and probably understandably so, after Metroid Prime 4, of kind of that isolation factor. But like, I think that you can have that still with people in this city to make it feel lived in. Do you hate that?
No, I think that's an awesome idea. I loved all of that. I don't think that's gonna happen. I'm guessing
I don't
Metroid 6 is probably. I think Metroid 6 is probably gonna take place on another alien planet. I will say my hope, because if it doesn't have that idea, I'm not gonna scream. I think that's an awesome idea, and I'd love to see that. But I'm also, you know, I don't need that to be in Metroid 6.
Yeah.
I think what I do need, and especially after Metroid Prime 4, I need some more original environments. I'm sick and tired of the lava environments and the snow environments and the jungle like I need, like, if you have to reuse like one or two of those ideas, fine, but like I need some brand new twists thrown in there.
Yeah.
Preferably some new art direction, but even if you do have to reuse one of the, like, do something completely different with that theming that we haven't seen before. I think that's the crux of what I definitely need in Metroid 6, because if I see just another generic like magma environment, I'm gonna roll my eyes.
There even should not be a drop of lava in this game.
even if the level design is really well done, like, even if visually it looks impressive, I'm gonna roll my eyes if I see another like heavily magma themed level. So I will say I wanted to extrapolate a little bit on what you were saying, because I actually really like that idea, and that's actually something I think there's a lot of potential with, in both a 2D and a 3D game. Having not even maybe it's a hub world, or maybe it's just like specific areas that are like heavily inhabited, and then you have these branching areas that are still desolate, and it makes
Yeah.
those desolate areas feel even that much more oppressive and disconnected, because you're even further away from these quote unquote safe and populated areas. And maybe you could even do something that Hollow Knight did, where the quote unquote safe area gets infected, and all the people that, like, you've grown to love and care about start slowly like going insane and losing their minds. Like, I think that would be a really cool idea as well. Or maybe like Ocarina of Time, where 7 years later you revisit Hyrule Square, and like the whole place is just broken in despair. All the citizens are replaced with the re-deads. Like, I love that idea, and I think there's so many different directions you could take that would be equally awesome.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, I'm open to so many ideas, and I think that that's the beauty of that, is like it just opens up like a bunch of different like possibilities that like I just like we've like how I know that there's probably an endless amount of alien planets we can go to, but like at some point it's just like let's flip the formula a little bit. That's why Metroid Fusion was so impactful when it came out, because it was like, oh, this is just like a big spaceship. This is really cool. So yeah, I think that is something I would personally love, and that kind of bleeds into my next point here, which is like we clearly, I think all of us thought this was going to happen in Metroid Prime 4, and it didn't. And that's really like a huge shame, actually. But Metroid 6, give us optional side content to do. Side quests. Put in side quests. And maybe you you drop the amount of expansions in the game by 50%. And side quests come in and take up that, and you get rewards from completing side quests. And maybe that can be like, oh, I'm a researcher. Go and defeat 20 of these enemies, and you could keep track of how many you've beaten with your bestiary. Or maybe it can be, hey, there's this really rockin' monster somewhere, and you're going to need this optional beam in order to go fight it. And once you get this optional beam, you can go and fight this optional boss and kill it. Like, there's no reason that there cannot be side quests in this game. Like, we have seen it in multiple Metroidvania games. Famously, I'm sure people are like screaming, and this is not the last Silksong reference, but it's top of my mind because I played it last year so much. But like, again, look at the amount of side content that game has. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. Prince of Persia, tons of side content there. Like, there's no reason to just have the game zip zap right to the finish line. Like, we can go and explore and meet new characters and take on different objectives. Maybe it's a side quest from Adam. If Adam has to come back, which he might, then like maybe he could be like, Samus, you're in this city. I've detected that like there's about to be, I don't know, a sludge outbreak into the water main. Go save these people. What's wrong with that? Like, let's have side quests in Metroid 6.
I kind of had an idea. So, like, let's say you encountered an NPC, and the NPC is like, hey, I need you to defeat this creature for whatever reason. I'm going to give you this new ability that you need to use to defeat the creature. Samus, and then when you do, you need to retrieve this thing that's located inside the creature. So Samus does that with a new weapon and retrieves the thing for the NPC. The NPC uses this thing, and it's like, ha, I fooled you. You needed this thing to achieve my final form. And now Samus has to fight the NPC with the new weapon that was just bestowed upon her.
Let's
go. Then maybe like this thing. Yeah. And then maybe this new gem, you can trade that in for something else later with another. I'm kind of thinking like the Zelda style like fetch quest, where like this one piece of item gets like carried over through multiple NPCs for like to a final goal.
Yeah.
That's kind of what my mind is on.
Yeah, put in a trading sequence. Like, I'm totally down for that. You know, like, I just like not a single Metroid game really has any optional content nor optional bosses, and that seems nuts. You know, like that really does. So I think like it's time to do that. You know, like it's time to have optional stuff, optional bosses, optional items, optional side quests, optional like I think that this is long overdue, and this is where I think some of Metroid's contemporaries are passing it. So yeah, that one I think that has to happen. Like that has to happen. Metroid Dread I think should have had side content, but it did not. Okay, I have got one kind of final one here that that ties into that, and no, I lost it on my list here. Here we go. Okay, this city, it should be huge, and like you said, I think if whatever the map ends up being, if it's not a city, I'm not going to pull my hair out. But what I am going to pull my hair out is that if we get something comparably sized to Metroid Dread, I think that this map needs to be substantially bigger, and for an arbitrary number, I'm going to throw out like this map should be like 3 times the size of Metroid Dread's, which would make it like one of the biggest Metroidvanias ever. I know that like size doesn't count for everything. The amount of hours that you put into a video game doesn't count for everything. However, I'm so sorry. Replaying Hollow Knight and replaying Silksong this year, that I think has raised the bar for what a Metroidvania map should deliver. Like that game takes like 65 hours to complete, and it costs $20. And if you're gonna charge me $90 Canadian and maybe $100 Canadian for Metroid 6 on the Switch 2, this map better be huge, and it better look great too. Like I'm not even just saying like it better have the same graphical fidelity that Dread's had, because I thought Dread was a great looking game. I expect and I want the map to be something that you could truly get lost in, and kind of like set the standard again for Metroidvanias, because I think that the Silksong map is probably right now, not taking into account historical maps like Super Metroid, but like that's probably the best Metroidvania map that there is. Like it's just ginormous. Like it's just ginormous, and it's packed with things to do. And I think that the map in Metroid 6 needs to be comparable to that. I think that this is where, size might matter for this map. So I don't think that they should play it safe. Like make it a big map, and don't have it where it's big for the sake of being big. Pack it with cool and interesting rooms, pack it with enemies, pack it with stuff to find, things to hear. Make your map big is what I want.
Yeah, this isn't one where I personally agree. I'm not opposed to the idea either, but that's also not really something I need in Metroid 6. I'm fine, if it does happen to be a large map and there's 60 hours of content and I don't feel like I'm being burnt out, I feel like it is varied, then hey, that's awesome. But I'm also down for a well-paced 10 to 15 hour adventure on my first try. I don't feel like that is devaluing the game at all. Again, especially considering how often I enjoy replaying these games. I think for a general market, that absolutely will be a huge selling point.
Yes.
Is that first playthrough, but just for me personally, that isn't something where I really need it. So, if they pull it off, cool. I'm
sorry. I just you are Nintendo. Okay, you are the most celebrated, famous video game publisher that there ever was, probably that there ever will be, and you are getting outdone by 20 people at Team Cherry right now. I expect and I want this map to be as big, as comparable. I'm sure that most people listening to this podcast are going to be with you. I think that a lot of people are going to be like, oh, well, give me quality over quantity. And what I'm saying is it's time for both. I don't think it's asking a whole lot to have both. I take that back. It obviously is going to be asking a lot, and it's going to be, a big lift. But you are Nintendo. You are Nintendo. Make this happen. Put some money into this game. You're going to be charging us full price, that we know, and it's not going to be, it's going to cost as much as every other Switch 2 game. So I find it if the map comes out and I think if you can beat the game on your first try in 15 hours, that's a fail to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't personally agree with that, but I also understand where you're coming from too at the same time.
So that's what I want. Yeah, I imagine that most people are going to be siding with you about this, but I think that we shouldn't just settle for. I'm not going to say lesser than, because like obviously it's a Nintendo game, it's going to have that level of polish that I think we expect, but like I am gonna have a hard time going back after playing the map in Silksong to a map that is not half that size.
All right.
What else do you have, Doom?
So there was something in there that gave me an idea for a bullet point, and it completely just got washed out of my head. So I don't know if it's going to come back at some.
You wanted 5 times the size of Metroid Dread, didn't you?
I wanted 5 times the size of whatever map Andy wanted. That's exactly what I wanted. Actually,
Give me Mega Map.
I needed Metroid 6 to be GTA 6. Actually, that's what I really wanted. No,
GTA 6 does take place in a city.
Many people are saying this.
Yes.
So the last 2 bullet points I have are really not even needs. These are like very, very minute nitpicks I had with Metroid Dread that, like, if affected, really wouldn't have any impact on my review score, but they're things that stood out to me nonetheless. Just nice little quality of life improvements that, for me at least, I think would just make Metroid 6 a little bit more replayable. But for me, I love the level design of Metroid Dread for the most part. I'm not a fan, and again, nothing to the point that like lowered my review score, but I don't like how in the second portion of the game still loves to railroad you a lot of points. And a lot of people, it's funny because a lot of people also have this critique, but I think a lot of other people make this in bad faith because they go, oh, I wish it was more like Super Metroid. And it's like, well, Super Metroid does railroad you too. The difference is in Super Metroid, the railroading stops at about the halfway point. After you collect the Varia suit in Kraid, you go back to Criteria, and after that, the training wheels kind of just come off, and from there, the game just kind of lets you get lost and explore the world and try to find your way as the game slingshots you all across the map. And I absolutely love that. I think that is the gold standard of Metroid Metroid level design, is what Super Metroid accomplishes there. And I would really love Metroid 6 to do something similar, where it doesn't remove railroading and road blocking altogether. I think that's important to kind of, get you situated with the game, especially if you're introducing a lot of new mechanics. But at eventually at some point, preferably around the halfway point, I would love those training wheels to come off, and it's like, okay, from here you're just being let loose in this labyrinthian maze. Go knock yourself out. There is no help from this point forward. That is what I would really love for Metroid 6. And maybe you could have some optional modifiers for, like, beginners, people who aren't familiar with Metroidvanias, because I think that is definitely a little bit of a daunting task for people who aren't as familiar with Metroid games. But for veterans like me, who, like, one of my favorite parts of a Metroid game is getting lost. That's why I love playing these games, and I would love for a modifier or an option to kind of just allow me to do that again.
So I have 2 things to say. One, I disagree with the fact, like the opinion that Metroid Dread kind of like railroads you, quote unquote, where like you need to go. I think the pacing in that game is like really great, and there is still room for you to go off and explore. However, I actually like totally agree with you here, in that I would love to have Metroid 6 like once you get out of the first area, because I think what you're referring to here is like the 2D games in Metroid Fusion, Zero Mission, Samus Returns, Dread. There is a very specific order which you need to acquire all of the items to progress in the game, and a very specific order to the areas that you're able to go, or the parts of the areas that you're able to go. Whereas I think like what I'm looking for and what you're looking for, and maybe we're just saying in different ways here when I'm saying like the map needs to be big, but like I think that you should have the option of exploring like 4 areas at any given time. You know what I mean? And maybe you can't explore fully the different areas, but like you can go there and like maybe the enemies are just like way too tough, or maybe like you don't have the grapple beam, the Metroid grapple beam to get you to the next level in this place, but you can explore enough of it. Like I think that is kind of what we're indirectly saying in the same way, where it's just like give the option to explore multiple lanes at the same time. And I think what I'm saying is like the easiest way to do that is to just expand the amount of areas that are in the game so that you can do that.
That isn't what I'm saying, but I love what you're saying though, and I think that's awesome. What I'm referring to is like the specific barriers that prevent you from going back. I'll use Super Metroid as an example again because I think it does it perfectly. But on your first visit, you descend into Planet Zebes through Green Brinstar, then Red Brinstar, then Norfair. Then you come up a little bit for Kraid, get the Various suit. Then you go back a little bit down to Norfair to get the Ice Beam, and then after that you're shooting back to Crateria again, and then from there the training wheels come off. But along that adventure, you go to Green Brinstar, and you cross the new bridge, and after you cross the new bridge, there's no going back until you get the speed booster. It's impossible to go back through that area. Without the speed booster. But on top of that, when you reach Red Brinstar, you fall down a pit full of rippers, and technically you can go back up that area with some really precisely timed single wall jumps. Most first-time players aren't going to be doing that. I kind of treat that. Yeah, I treat that as like, hey, you've reached a point of no return at this point, or at least not until much later in the game. And Super Metroid expertly does this, places these at various points and locks you into specific sections until that moment where you collect the power bombs and you go back up to Crateria. And after that, all of those little roadblocks are immediately dissipated, and there really aren't that many, if any at all, when it comes to roadblocks that come up after that. And that's kind of the level design that I really want to see return again to Metroid 6. That's kind of what I'm referring to.
There's a lot of roadblocks that come up after that. You need the gravity suit, you need the space jump, but I get what you're saying, and I agree. I think like the more open that you can get, like the better. And like, yeah, like I think that the ideal state is like you do the first third of the game, and maybe that's kind of the more traditional, like you go in and then you kind of get your items, then it's just like, okay, now go explore Midgar, or whatever the city is going to be called.
Yeah.
Okay, on that note, I really only have one more that I wanted to just quickly point out here, and I think like this is a pretty safe bet, but I think that it's just like it's time for just let's go full bore with voice acting in Metroid 6. I think like you've kind of already seen that in Metroid Prime 4. Yeah, you kind of saw it in Metroid Dread as well, with Samus speaking. I would have liked to have Ravenbeak maybe speak as well, even if it was like in an alien language, and I guess he kind of does, but like I just think
he says a couple of Chozo phrases. I know what you mean though, like a little more substantial dialogue. Yeah.
Well, in this game, like my vision is like this game kind of is like a little bit more story heavy, maybe not quite as much as Metroid Fusion, but like certainly more than like Metroid Prime 4. And like I think you just want to have like really quality voice acting if you can for that. And I would go so far as well to say is like if you find like voice logs, like I know that's kind of old hat by now, but like I think that's another really good way to like even if like you use your scan pulse and you use your logbook and you get that in your logbook or whatever, like I think there should just be like a play option to hear the text log, like imagine you're playing Metroid Prime and you could just hear someone recite to you the Chozo lore, and maybe it's a playlist, you can hear all of them if you want. Like I think that would just kind of streamline the game a little bit more and just kind of, I don't know, bring it up to a little bit more of a modern standard, I guess.
I think it would depend on like how many NPCs Samus is interacting with specifically, but I mean, Yeah, that could
I'm
be.
not talking like
After-
every single like bloke that you encounter, but like the
Right.
big scenes, like you want that.
Yeah, I will say, admittedly, after Prime 4, I am a little bit hesitant toward more NPCs in Metroid. But obviously, MercurySteam is a completely different studio than that, so it would be a much different take. But yeah, I think it could be neat.
I just think that it's like, you know, one of my favorite 3D Metroidvanias is Arkham Asylum, and lots of voice logs there, and I feel like it adds to the characters, it adds to the world. Let's not be so quick to write off like NPCs and voice acting either. Like, say what you will about the NPCs in Metroid Prime 4, but the voice acting was really good for the most part. I think obviously the writing for that necessarily didn't hit, but the voice acting I thought was fine. And we've kind of talked about this with Other M. It's like just because you tried something once and it didn't work, I don't think that doesn't mean that you should never try it again.
I agree with that. I just also, I don't know, Nintendo in general, I just am trusting less and less when it comes to like voices and story and things of that nature. But I'd love to be proven wrong.
Well,
But obviously, like you mentioned, like Arkham Asylum, incredible voice acting, like in that whole trilogy, frankly, like wonderful voice acting. The voice logs really hit and deliver. Like you have incredibly memorable. Obviously, a lot of the characters are already memorable. But like memorable specific to that environment and that game. So yeah, obviously it can be done, but I think it's a question of like who is leading the direction behind that. And
yeah, and
yeah,
like,
if
I
they
don't
do
know,
that,
but like
I hope they pull it off.
If Adam has to talk to me in Metroid 6, which I hope he doesn't, but like if Adam has to talk to me, I want it voice acted so I can freely move around and do other things while I'm not listening to Adam.
I will say if Adam is back, which I don't know why he wouldn't be. He's a part of like Samus's gunship now, so like I would imagine he would have to be in some role. If he does speak, I hope he actually has like some sort of like humanoid, like still can sound robotic, but like a more humanoid voice than like whatever that goofy ass Microsoft text to speech voice he got in Metroid Dread was. It still baffles me how Samus heard that voice and like, yep, that's the Adam I know. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've never been the biggest fan of Adam, but like, if you're gonna come, like we did Alien in review last week, and like we went from David the android and now we're talking about Adam. So like, there's room to improve there for sure. Okay, I've got one last one. It's kind of like a silly one. So if you have any left, now's the time to unload, Doom.
I have gone through my entire list, so this one's all you.
Okay, this would be the ultimate fan service moment, but I think they should do this in Metroid 6. So my vision for the story here is like Samus is in her Metroid suit, or like maybe she's going in between. Like maybe there's portions like she can't control it, right? Like maybe the breast of her suit kind of starts to evolve a little bit with that Metroid suit, but not quite, like not the whole body. So she wants to cover that so that no one can see this like organic Metroid coming out. I think that they should recreate one of the most famous shots in Metroid. Put Samus in a cloak. Put her in that duster. Have it covering up the Metroid suit. Just give us a shot in game of Samus in a cloak. Can you imagine like Samus got that cloak in a dirty city? Like the Metroid suit is there, but like she's trying to conceal it, and that's why she's wearing it. Like I think that'd be really cool. That'd be like a nice little homage to a piece of artwork that I think a lot of people know.
That's the box art right there. Are you kidding me? That's hell yeah. Let's do that.
that could be the box art. Like that would be really cool.
That would be incredible. Sign me up.
I think they should do it. I'd be really excited about that. Okay, and that's it. That's all I got. Metroid 6, baby.
MercurySteam.
This sounds like Nintendo, a great game.
Take notes. Yeah, dude, I'm loving this game.
I can't wait to play it.
Someone should make this.
They need to hire us on as consultants. We've got the inside scoop as to what Metroid fans want here.
Yeah, obviously.
Big maps, cloaks, bestiaries. It's not hard.
Sprawling cities.
Yes. Midgar, easy. Okay, let us know what you would like to see for definitely. There's a great article on OmegaMetroid.com, by the way, which I'm gonna toot my own horn and say that I wrote, and I pitch bringing in a new protagonist for Metroid 6, and people hated it, but I don't care. It was a really great piece.
You know what? The people, as much as I hate agreeing with you, Andy, the people just weren't ready for that greatness.
It might not have been, and there might not be a Metroid 6 either, so we'll have to see. Yeah, let us know what you think of our list. Let us know what you think that you would like to see in Metroid 6, if we're onto something, if we're not onto something. And we'd love to, you know what, if you like some of our ideas and you want to take them and expand on them, I'd love to hear, because like some of these were just like kind of concepts that could definitely use some fleshing out. So like please feel free to jump in and tell us what your thoughts are, because we'd love to hear them. Yeah, and the best place to do that, by the way, Omega Metroid's Discord. It's been popping for the last couple of months, so come on in, come and be among Metroid fans, and feel free to just geek out with us as we talk about this series that we love so dearly. That is going to do it for us, my friends. We are going to get out of here, but before we do, we got a few things to say. Number one is that we hope that you check out OmegaMetroid.com. It is our 4th birthday today. We are 4 years old, so tons and tons of great walkthroughs there, plus thought pieces, plus written opinions, plus maps, plus guides, plus everything that you could need if you are a Metroid fan, not to mention the latest news. So go and give OmegaMetroid.com a visit and check it out. Check out our YouTube page as well. Give us a subscription while you're there. Why the heck not? And if you want to watch these podcasts in video form, that lives over on Omega Metroid YouTube page as well, plus video walkthroughs as well. So lots of cool stuff for you there. We do have a Patreon, patreon.com/spnet. That will get you bonus episode. $4 gets you in the door. You've got Gooey Plays Metroid, the Great Metroid Area Ranking, ROM Hack Reviews, the Spiteri Show, tons of other content there. So if you really need more Metroid in your life, by God, that is the place to do it. And of course, we want you to check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Go like, subscribe, recommend, rate, review. If you got a Metroid fan in your life, tell them where they can get their weekly Metroid fix. We are doing this every single Wednesday, so make sure that you are spreading the good word. And of course, last, we are going to encourage you to give us a follow over on Blue Sky, at Spiteri316, at Doominal Crossing, and at Omega Metroid. That's it. We will see everybody next week. Take care.